All right, welcome to the Ravit Show, everyone. I'm super excited. In today's episode, we are joined by one and only Eldad, co-founder and CEO of Firebolt, a next-gen cloud data warehouse that's transforming how organizations handle their data. So I'm excited to obviously deep dive into how Firebolt is helping businesses achieve lightning fast query speeds, scale data infrastructure seamlessly, and also reducing cost, because those are like interesting topics I feel. But y'all can ask questions to Eldad directly as well in the chat. We'll be opening up the questions for Eldad, so feel free to put in those questions around data warehousing, around real world scenarios that you feel, or anything else. But without any further ado, I would like to bring up Aldad up here. Aldad, welcome to the Ravit Show. Such a pleasure to have you today. And this was long due. Obviously, I think we've been connected for like a long, long time. And obviously, I've seen you speaking at various places. I think you've seen the show as well. But finally, it's good to host you and learn a lot about Firebolt, about yourself, about what's next. So excited to chat today.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me, and I look forward to see where the chat will take us.
Super excited as well. So I thought just to start with, obviously, I would love to know a little about what's happening at Firebolt, and a little about yourself as well. What are you working on?
Great. So first and foremost, I've been busy over the last 5 years. I've been
Right,
busy with Firebolt. So we were busy less talking and more working. We've
right.
had a lot of work ahead of us. Building a new data warehouse. So that's a pretty
Mhm.
crazy undertaking. And we've been busy building the Firebolt data warehouse with our customers, with our design partners, expanding
Mhm.
our engineering sites, and really making sure that the system is solving what it's supposed to solve in the first place, which is analytics at scale. So I'm very
Right.
excited about it. I've been doing it forever. So this is my fifth startup, two unicorns under my belt, but only one
Very
one
cool.
very 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 special company, which is Firebolt. So it's great to be here.
That's awesome. And you mentioned about, obviously solving the problem for, obviously the data community, which we've been seeing since the last 5 years. I've been very closely, I've been following Firebolt and the journey that we all have, put together, and how y'all are, obviously making strides in the community. So excited to know about that. But just for, our audience, I would also want to know a little about, what sets Firebolt apart in the crowded cloud data warehousing market, because there are so many tools out there. How would you actually kind of describe Firewall to be, that okay, this is our differentiator.
So we've been looking at how data is being applied over the years, and I'm fortunate to take that journey for like 30 years. And
Right.
we've seen data being evolved, first being used as reports, then being used as marts, then moved to the cloud for internal analytics and BI.
Right.
But over the last few years, something new happened.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was that companies, specifically data engineering teams, started to move internal analytics and think about external analytics, think about moving away from just using data for internal consensus, aka BI,
Right.
to really building data apps at scale, serving them to their
Mm-hmm.
users, to their customers. And what we've seen is that the challenge of moving from having a data warehouse in the cloud that does what the data warehouse is supposed to do, right?
Right.
But mostly use it for BI, to go from BI to customer facing data apps is just an impossible undertaking. Not only is it because of the data warehouse, it's also because of how the market is built. It's an engineering problem. If you go from internal to external, you're suddenly finding yourself with a lot of new challenges that you didn't really care about when doing those old great dashboards that we've all been enjoying for so many years. SLAs, low latency, scale, getting data from multiple places, consistency. There's so
Mm-hmm.
many terms and concepts and requirements that you would just throw away when you go
Yeah.
from a Snowflake to a full-scale data app. And we wanted to build this product that serves data engineers, first and foremost data engineers. So what does it mean? It means it
Mhm.
acts and behaves like a data warehouse. It's consistent. The SQL is not just a flavor. It is the right real SQL. It is
Right.
it knows how to handle modern modeling. It knows how to do joins at scale. It knows how to run window functions. It knows how to do all of those things, but for customer facing apps.
Mm.
And to get there, we had to really rethink a lot of the things that were just being perceived as given, right? So the best example is single node, multi node. What is scale up versus scale out?
Mm.
Coupled storage, decoupled storage. What about metadata? What is it a problem? Is it an opportunity? So there are so many dimensions within the data
Right.
warehouse that really needed that kind of innovation and rethinking. And that's what we've been doing over the last 5 years.
Hmm. That's pretty interesting. You mentioned about, various things about, around data apps and what y'all are working on. And I'm kind of also curious to know a little about, the scaling in, how businesses are looking at something. I'm pretty sure you have like so many enterprises you all are working with. So, and you talk to enterprise leaders day in and out, so many customers, so many prospects. How do you think about, the cost playing a role into their KPIs as well? Because they're always looking out for something which is cost effective, something which is working first priority, cost effective, and something that they can scale over the time. So how does, Firebolt kind of take cares of these factors? But I'm pretty sure there are more factors that you might know, talking to these enterprise leaders. So would love to know a little about that as well.
So first, we've noticed that enterprises, data engineering teams are taking over big budgets. They're
Right.
taking over big budgets to build big products. And big
So,
products with data means lots of data and lots of
mhm.
complexity within the data. So when we were previously thinking about large data, it was always operational. It was always real time. It was always a single table with filters and group bys. But when you think data warehousing, it's a whole different challenge. You have complex models, you have semi structured and structured, you have different use cases running on the same model. And
Mm,
you need a certain set of capabilities to just deal with that. And I think when we started, one of the first things we've decided to do is really rethink scale out. Because scale
mm,
out back then, 5 years ago, was perceived as this is as a wrong path, is the wrong way to approach analytics because people assumed you need 1,000 nodes, you need 10,000 nodes to scale out. But reality is a
mm,
single node today is extremely, extremely powerful.
mm,
So the way we thought about it was we can't choose one or the other. Because today, and if you look at data warehouses, if you build analytics, you usually combine multiple products, and it has nothing to do with the data. It has to do with the fact that different warehouses just focus on a single value prop. Think
mm,
about a Spark or Athena or a BigQuery. They're great at scale out with 1,000 nodes. So that would be great for ELT or for running those huge long reports.
mm.
But then you have ClickHouse and you have in memory and you have kind of the more OLAP kind of solutions where
Yeah.
they're low latency.
So,
And everyone, we're all told that, yeah, you either get low latency, and for that, you need to give up a lot. And we can drill into what you need to give up to get low latency, or you
mhm,
go with the traditional legacy approach, which is cloud native data warehouses that give you elasticity, which is not efficiency. It's just being able to tackle any size problem just by doubling the hardware. So for the first generation of cloud data warehouses, introducing just elasticity using
mm,
scale out solved at least half of the problem, which is the modeling, the ELTing. A data warehouse is not just a stream of incoming data points. It is a
mhm.
set of steps needed to cleanse, model, join, combine, really set the
True,
model up
true.
for use. Um, And once you go from that single table to that multi-table complex model, you need to choose. So it's either a simplified model with a low latency, which is handled by engineers, 24/7 hardware running, or you go with a Snowflake, which is an amazing experience, easy, SQL only, but you pay a lot.
Mm.
And if you look at companies, well, Snowflake won. Obviously, cloud data warehouses took the majority of the market. And we've had a few years where people didn't really look for low latency. They were happy. Everyone, like 5 years ago, everyone was happy with cloud data
True.
warehouses. Low
Yeah.
latency was, oh, please, no, don't talk to me about low latency. That's an engineering, that's a system engineering thing. I
Yeah.
just need to give up on everything. So I'm losing my productivity, and productivity is important for a data engineer. So there was this backing off from low latency and complexity just for the sake of moving fast. And they were right. When you work
Mm.
for the business and you're building data apps, like productivity is essential. So having that elasticity introduced within data warehouses, allowing you to solve big problems fast, change a lot of perception for data engineering teams. So now they started to think, well, we've managed to do all of that, which we couldn't do before modern cloud data warehouses. What's next? What do we need to do to actually take over the whole data solution within the company and not just provide internal dashboards, but really take over the business? Whether you're
Mm.
playing an online game and you see the dashboards embedded in your gaming and it's in real time and it's changing the values, or you're a healthcare company or an edtech company or a fintech company, or those new companies, those new use cases, they started to take over. They started to replace that conventional BI, one step at a time mindset. And I think one of the reasons Firebolt caught fire is not because we were so beautiful or pretty. It's because there was a big need for
Mm.
analytics at scale. But to do analytics at scale, just like a data warehouse would do. Obviously, we had to innovate a lot. So when we started, we
Yeah.
were
That's
very
true.
optimistic. We were very optimistic, but very quickly on we realized like there is a lot of heavy lifting here. So
Mm.
building a query processor that excels in speed wasn't enough. We really need to rethink how distributed execution, query execution looks like.
Right.
Given new hardware, given the fact that we don't just decouple storage from compute, we actually want to decouple metadata as well. And that
Mm.
is important because when you get to low latency, metadata becomes a huge bottleneck. So,
Right.
and again, we went on that journey to rethink metadata. How do we get isolated compute, elasticity, cloud native, decoupled storage from compute, but with low latency? So a
Mm.
typical analytical workload today spins up compute, different compute sizes for different needs all the time. As a user, you look and you run queries and you get responses, but the ELT, the select queries, the on-demand reports that are just happening, you can ignore it. You can, you can say I don't want it, but your customer, when they do every quarter their financial analysis, they run those huge
Mm.
reports.
Right.
And companies started to look for a solution that focuses on the compute, not just the storage. Everyone was talking, how do we centralize storage? How do we open up storage for everything? Iceberg is an amazing example. It
Mm.
presumably tries to solve a big problem, which is sharing storage and metadata across different compute. But now
Right.
that you were there, now, okay, we have that shared storage, people start to wonder, okay, so will I run 20 different compute solutions to get a single dashboard up and running? Because that single dashboard has both a 50 megabyte scan and a three
Mm.
and a half terabyte scan. It's just different widgets. And as a user, when you scroll down and you click and use ad hoc and interactive analytics on that app, dashboard, whatever, you don't care whether that was a 3.5 terabyte scan or a 20 megabyte scan. You just want a single experience within your app that solves your business problems. So getting a multi-purpose compute for analytics, something that not just excels when you scale up, but scales when you scale out, excels when you scale out, was crucial for that need, for that data app need, which needs to scan various sizes. So we went all in and we said, okay, so we're not just going to do one thing really well, because we
Mm.
really believe that analytics needs both. But
Mm.
we focused on analytics. This is not an OLTP journey. It is about different flavors of analytics that needs to be served in a
Right.
single screen, in a single shot, in a single end user click. So
Yeah.
this is kind of in a nutshell where how we ended up and to kind of how we got to this journey. And part of it being innovative was actually we want to talk to less customers.
Mm.
We felt going too broad, going too aggressive, and just pushing ourselves everywhere will just confuse us. We'll
Mm.
just introduce all of those use cases that there are great products out there that already solve it. We didn't want to solve yesterday's problems. So we
Yeah.
started to work with data engineering teams that own the biggest data challenges within companies, but
Mm.
wanted to use a data warehouse to solve those problems versus use 10
Right.
different open source wired stuff up. They just want to work. And this is how Firebolt came to be.
Mm. I think that's first of all, thanks for sharing all the details. It is super insightful how you all have, obviously, in the last 5 years, you all have, obviously worked on various problems, but then keeping the focus very much laser focus in terms of what type of big gap that you all want to fill in for in the analytics space. How do you all want to make that mark? And definitely, that's how you've kind of got the fire as well in the firebolt, and y'all are running towards that direction. One more quick question that I had, and this is more a little technical as well, but for the folks, obviously, I want to ask is, how does firebolt help organization overcome data processing challenges? Now there are various challenges that these, you mentioned already in your answer a few of them. Anything else that you feel that, okay, these are, the basic challenges, and how we are kind of helping them to get to the next level?
So I think conventionally people assume that analytics is just serving the data. So
Hmm.
they would build that stack, that data pipe, and that data
Right.
pipe would use at least three products, three
Hmm.
databases, not even products. But then after all of that is done, they would go and say, okay, so now I need to serve the data. So I need an OLAP mindset. I need something that's fast, that gets the job done.
Right.
And we think about it very differently. We think that analytics is the whole data pipe. It's everything that happens when that data point gets born up to the point where it gets consumed. So
Right.
that means introducing the ability to do ELT at scale while
Hmm.
still serving low latency at the same product, within the same experience, within the similar as SQL. So it's the same compute. You can run a query on Firebolt that's on demand, that can spin up 50 nodes, that can crunch 200, 300 compressed terabytes compressed, and run it in a few seconds. And you can have a low latency fact table that does joins
Mm.
in less than a second. This is the same product, but it's using very different technical capabilities. For example, being able to do low latency is all about two big things. One is indexing, and the
Hmm.
second is really like your query, the core query engine. You need to be able
Right.
to do thousands of queries concurrently and serve them in milliseconds. And that's usually when people refer to you scan small amounts of data. But
Mm.
that's not true, because what happens with customer facing is that it's highly granular. It's high cardinality.
Right. Right.
Even though a single query needs to scan just 20 megabytes, to get to those 20 megabytes in an existing data warehouse, you scan terabytes. So building indexing on top of conventional data warehousing is fundamental for low latency. If you don't have those kind of indexes, you are not thinking low latency. Therefore, you cannot serve data at scale for your customers. But that's
Mm.
just half of the story, because the other half is scale out. The ELT, you need everyone does ELT. You cannot just ignore the ELT part. There's no one else
Right.
to solve your ELT part. And
Right.
data engineering teams, they don't want the Spark team to do it for them. And they don't
Mm.
naturally don't want to specialize in just one step of the data funnel. They just want to be productive. And Firebolt is actually the first product, the first data warehouse that does scale out and low latency so well within the same query runtime. And I think that's what makes Firebolt extremely unique.
Yeah.
And I hope and I'm sure we will see more data warehouses, more startups, more people start to talk about the fact that we need multi-purpose compute for analytics. We can't
Right.
just use different analytics for different parts of the funnel.
Mm.
And I think this is where people get really surprised at first, like, and we
Yeah.
had to work really hard to convince them. And part of that was really fighting that perception that scale out is slow. If you think 10,000 nodes, obviously, they're just allocating that will take
Mm.
longer than anyone is willing to wait for.
Right.
But the world has changed. And if you look at compute on the cloud today, you can solve huge problems with strong machines which are combined together to solve a big problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think, and the other thing people are missing is sometimes you can't wait. So it's not just about how I feel about speed. Like, is it fast? Is it slow? It's not how I feel about it. It's just my window of updates, my SLA. If my
Mm.
company is building a data app and I need to crunch 50 terabytes every 10 minutes because that's my product, like that's my app, that's my dashboard. It needs to serve new data every
Mm.
10 minutes. But the size of the problem is huge. You need to scale out. There is no other way than scaling out. So
Right.
this is why we strongly believe that you need to rethink data warehousing for the purpose of analytics only. And we're very opinionated about it to even say that analytics is everything. So data warehousing going forward is all about analytics. And because it's becoming all about analytics, yes, we need to rethink how data warehouses work and act. And as you said, how much they cost. So the
Exactly.
most obvious example, like, why do I need to double my compute? Like, it's ridiculous. Have you
Right.
ever tried doubling $100 to $200 to gain the bit, to gain your processing window done with the time window you need? It's ridiculous. So also elasticity needs to be innovated, and we
Mm.
strongly believe in multidimensional elasticity, which means first it's granular, so you don't really need to double or nothing. You just increase your compute
Mm.
with the amount that you actually need.
Yeah.
Secondly, obviously, you need to be able to support sparks in queries in QPS. So high concurrency comes and goes. We're not talking about solutions that are always high concurrency. That's easy.
Right.
You
Yeah.
you know the workload, you know in advance. Go ahead. There are many great products, databases. You don't need the data warehouse. If everything is known, predicted, then the cost is known and predicted. But
Mm.
the problem with data warehouses is that it's when it's not predicted. It's when you have those spikes. It's then you need to settle for the upper threshold of the spike, and you buy in advance this compute, and you pay so much money to kind of support that extreme case of a spike. But in
Mm.
80% of the time, you're not using it. So granular elasticity, multidimensional elasticity is something that we will hear a lot about as vendors try to solve those new problems, which are user facing and not just internal. So this is how kind of Firebolt connects all the dots.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love those insights, and thanks for sharing that in detail. One more quick question around, obviously, you've been working with so many enterprises out there and so many different companies. So I'm kind of curious to know if you would like to share any of the use case or success story demonstrating, Firebolt's impact. I'm kind of curious to know a little bit more real world example as well.
Yes, we have different kind of companies, really like the traditional, more enterprise-like.
Yeah.
So let's take IQVIA. It's a big
Hmm.
life science company, and
Right.
what they transitioned through is really going and building customer facing apps. They started to seriously work on customer facing. They decided that their business is actually big part of their business is building those customer facing
Nice.
solutions.
Yeah.
But the problem was that once you move to customer facing to user facing, the data is changing, the models are changing.
True. True.
They grow in size, they grow in granularity, they grow in scale. Suddenly, isolation of compute and everything becomes is needed. It becomes complicated.
Yeah.
So it's usually the same spiel. We start with a workload. We usually go, as I said, like you need a big problem. So if
Hmm.
you're happy with your existing solution, please go on and be happy, and it's okay. In Firebolt, it starts with a pain point. It starts when people are really realizing they need to go out and start looking for something. And we met the team, and we were a startup, and we started from the innovation kind of. We went through the
Hmm.
innovation
Right.
path, right? But it's all about production workloads. It's because Firebolt is only about taking data to production.
Hmm.
We don't have any customer or user that is just playing with us, or like just testing it out for the sake of testing. We all of our users, 100% of them, they take us to production. So having traditional enterprises moving to modern data apps and becoming modern was a huge kind of learning, and seeing those data engineering teams taking over large scale analytics was amazing. It didn't exist a
Hmm.
few years ago.
Yeah.
A second kind of company is actually the opposite in terms of in kind of the DNA maybe of the company. Those are newer companies, so they exist. They're cloud native,
Hmm.
fintech, edtech, game tech, health tech. All of those companies.
Yeah.
What makes them special is their data stack. It's their
Right.
large data lakes. Those are all data lake companies.
Hmm.
Lakes equal size equals complexity, and they're
True.
all about data apps.
Hmm.
So we started to work with those kind of companies. One company that many people know about is Similarweb.
Oh yeah.
They analyze everything. They kind of the internet. It's the kind of the an analytics of everything that goes out there. When
True.
you read CNN, Wall Street Journal, like they always use Similarweb as a reference, as a proof point, because Similarweb has the data and has the analytics to support it. So
Right.
again, they started as a design partner with one big challenge and ended up as a customer, as running many different workloads. And we have many, 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 many examples like that. So
Hmm.
different kind of companies, but what makes everyone, I think, similar in many ways is their passion for taking data to production. And when I say production, it's the customer facing.
Customer facing. True.
And then it's the realization that data engineering owns the data. And data engineering is about value, and it's about taking it to the market and building a business on top of it. So you can't just bury everyone with technicalities and restrictions and the difference between consistent and non-consistent, and why can't I join with more than one node, and what is this limitation here, and why is the SQL suddenly behaving differently than what I've always done. They just need to just need to get things done.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
two examples, but there are so many, and we're looking forward. Like we just started. We opened up
Yeah. Yeah.
after years of building the database. We opened up 2.5 months ago.
Hmm. That's
So
awesome.
yes.
Yeah. No, I love the journey and I love those examples as well. In two different companies, like very different companies, obviously running towards something which is more user facing. But at the same time, I kind of feel like with similar web, they like data engineers, like you said, one big thing which is about owning the data by the data engineers, which is a huge thing. And then obviously about similar web as a company, obviously we all have been, I'm pretty sure a lot of people have used similar web in some or the other way, even if it's to go out and check your site ranking or the traffic or something, right? And how updated in real time they are in terms of the data and the analytics is so huge. I can't imagine, like, in terms of how complex it would be behind the scenes, but I'm pretty sure Firebolt is out there to support them, and obviously they're doing pretty well. And It's
So the good thing
fantastic.
is,
Yeah.
it's not me. It's not my fault. The biggest innovation at Firebolt comes from product and engineering. Like
Mm.
those guys, that team, and it's. I'm in Munich right now, kind of visiting our query processing team. It's based in
Yeah.
Munich. It's
Nice.
started in TUM University. They have generations of PhDs researching and building query processors. So Hyper,
Mm.
Umbra, Salesforce, right? Tableau, you know Tableau? The
Yes,
query engine
exactly.
behind Tableau was built here. And the
Nice.
other team, like very far away from Munich, is Seattle. That's where our CTO Moshe Pasumansky is sitting. That's where our senior engineering is sitting. And
Right.
and 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 they innovated on first and foremost metadata and scale out. So compute meta, like it's done there. So
Mm.
Firebolt is really like our success and our evolution is really comes from those people in those places and us being able to give them a stage to be really ambitious about what they're trying to build. So you can feel Firebolt like it's been very research driven.
Yeah.
Every new paper, every new academical paper, it's like a reading groups here. Like that's one aspect of the culture. But the other aspect is innovation equals customer value. There is not a
Mm.
single feature, not a single ID, there is not a single thought that is not first and foremost being tested with the customer. And it was really important for us to have that close set of design partners over the years so we can be innovative with. So we know that we haven't built something just for the sake of building it, but really solving a problem that is becoming painful and
Mm.
is actually being expected to be solved by a new set of engineers, which are data engineers. So the days where you would have your data lake being owned by a different team because it's large data and it's complex and you need Java or whatever to deal with it are gone.
Mm.
And this is what Firebolt is all about. It's SQL is the language of data, right? It's the Latin of data.
Mm.
And just 3 years ago, SQL was a bad thing to say. Like, if you do SQL, you must give up on a lot of stuff. I'm happy that we're back. I'm happy that everyone is now back
True.
to the right. Like data is like fashion; it goes in cycles, and
100%.
so yeah, being simple and giving that power in the hands of our users so they can solve both the large problems and the small problems, and just be able to get along and serve those things to their customers is what Firebolt is about.
Mm. No, I love it. I love all the details of that, and definitely we are doing fantastic things in this space. I'm kind of also curious to learn a little about, how are you all, in this new era, not so new as well because we're back to SQL, and obviously, which is for good. How is Firebolt supporting the next generation of data engineers? What's the thought process there?
So I will not go over everything I just said. I will add
Yeah.
something that is crucial for your question, which is the dialect and your ability to tap into the ecosystem. So the
Mhm.
way we're thinking about it at Firebolt is we don't just want to build a long tail of connectors and presumably drivers for different products. We want the ecosystem to just connect to Firebolt natively through Postgres Wire, through Postgres Dialect, so that we
Mm.
can support the majority, the vast amount of ecosystem that's out there.
Yep.
And what does it mean? It means that it's not just enough to be a Postgres compliant SQL. You need to do the DML right. So when you run dbt and when you run your ELT, you're doing updates, you're doing deletes, you're doing a lot of stuff that is well beyond just selects or syntax
Mm.
compatibility. It's really about taking the ways data warehouses behave today, but allow you to do that at 10 times the scale and 100
Right.
times the efficiency.
Mm.
And without forcing you to change mindset. So going back to what needs to be done for for at least from our perspective, we want data engineers to feel comfortable transitioning to a new data warehouse because migration is the worst. Like nobody wants to migrate. Like Please don't force me to migrate. That's kind of the first feedback you will get. So we spend
Yeah.
a lot of effort into making sure the big pain in migrating is smoothen out, get simplified, and in many cases is actually almost completely transparent.
Mm.
Because migration from one database to another usually means you need to rebuild everything from scratch, and not
Sure.
necessarily just because of the SQL. It's because of the physics of the database. Different databases have different physics. I've
True.
said consistency, eventual consistency, scale out, not scale out. So we want them to feel comfortable. We want them, if they're transitioning from a Redshift, from a Snowflake, from a Databricks, like from all the amazing products that exist out there, and those are amazing products, we don't want them to restart. We don't want them to take online courses at night. We don't want them to have long debates whether consistency is still needed. Of course, it's needed, because when you update your data and you're building serious customer facing solutions, yes, you're facing with reality, and your data is changing, and data engineers need real data warehouses to deal with those challenges. And this
True.
is why it took us so long.
Exactly.
And Firebolt is not an open source product. We didn't have or use the community for 10 years to accelerate our development. We've done everything ourselves. And this is why Firebolt was mostly product and engineers up until a year ago. So around
Mm.
100 engineers spending 4 years
Wow.
on their obsession and passion.
Yeah.
I'm just a co-founder. So
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
I'm really
I love it.
proud of the
And
team. I'm really proud of the team, and I really look forward to have the team see how data engineering is evolving through Firebolt. And I'm really excited about the market, about the fact that data is now, through SQL, through data engineering, is taking over the world.
mm.
And we want to be there. We want to be part of that movement, that conversation, and we want to innovate.
Yeah, no, I love it. And each and everything that you've said kind of makes a lot of sense in terms of, for the data engineers out there, and the pain points definitely that you've kind of picked up. Definitely, I've heard it from so many data engineers. Sometimes it's like even going to a different tool, if they have to explore the thought process of migrating, kind of, push back everything. They're like, no, we don't want to even think about it. But then if that's kind of easing up, I think there's so much innovation that is already happening in this space in how you all are working with data engineers. Also, another quick question in which is around the future. So, how do you see the future of data warehousing? How do you see the future of data warehousing with Firebolt?
Did you notice we haven't mentioned AI a single time during the conversation?
You're right, actually. Oh, wow.
Amazing.
Yes,
And
amazing, really. I finally feel I'm going back in 2021, and I'm talking to a guest who's not mentioning a lot about, AI, and
exactly.
we haven't mentioned about AI at all, which is A plus. Wow, thanks for making me realize that.
And the reason is because data warehousing is amazing by itself. We don't need to add
Hmm.
AI on top of it to make it meaningful. But AI does something, not directly to the data warehouse, but it does something to the workload. It's changing the nature of the workload. We're not
Hmm.
experts. We just observe. We listen, because we look at our customers and we need them to innovate and figure out how data warehousing is going to serve AI. So putting aside the similarity functions and everything that obviously we're having and building, I think the biggest thing we've discovered is that low latency and scale and high granularity
Hmm.
is actually something that AI considers fundamental. So
Hmm.
when those bots and when those things are running there, and when companies start to take manual dashboards and manual kind of non-AI products and turn them into AI, what you're seeing is that the amount of queries being sent to the data warehouse grows exponentially.
Hmm.
And the problem with it is cost, is efficiency, is just 90% of those queries are meaningless. The
Right.
10% are meaningful, but you need to run all of them. And you just can't pay anymore. You can't pay $20 a query. and you just can't. It's not because maybe you want, but you just can't. You can't afford it. Like the physics is
True.
changing. So low latency at scale is something that is fundamental to AI, but it's not being
Hmm.
spoken about because it's not sexy. It's not right. It's just data warehousing, and we love data warehousing. So we think everything about data warehousing is important. Um, so yeah, that goes into AI and kind of the future. But what are data apps? Kind of that's it. Like it's about changing the nature of how your customers consume data. It's
Hmm.
about enabling them to do stuff through your product that they couldn't do before. And we need new products for that, and we need to evolve. And the data warehousing industry cannot just pivot to AI and pretend everything is okay. Again,
Yeah.
we hope everyone pivots to AI, and we can just do what we love doing and stay focused on data warehousing. And I look forward to that.
This is fantastic, Eldad, and thanks for sharing such great information with our audience today and all the details that you've shared. I'm pretty sure I can't wait for the future. What y'all are working on is pretty good. I'm excited to see what's next as well. But one last question, I'm pretty sure the audience would love to know is if they want to reach out to you, if they want to find you on LinkedIn, if they want to learn more about Firebolt, where can they do that?
I'm on LinkedIn,
Awesome.
supposedly. I tend
Yeah.
to spend less time on LinkedIn, frankly. I'm just busy working.
Yeah.
So I try to, but I'm reading. So, right, like I'm reading.
Yeah.
So all of my feed is basically data. Thank you, LinkedIn, for filtering the everything out other than what I really am passionate about. Um, so everyone can find me everywhere. I'm on LinkedIn. I think even my email is on the website, or my LinkedIn link is on the website, and
Right.
Firebolt is open and it's there. And if you want to reach out to me or to us, just register and send us an email. And we're on Slack, so you can access everyone in Firebolt. We're very transparent and open, and we will
That's
happily talk
awesome.
to everyone
No, I love
about
it.
data.
And Eldad, this was long due, but today in the last 42 minutes, I've learned so much. I've discussed so much about data warehousing. I've see, actually now got more into the depth of Firebolt and the innovations that y'all have done in this space and y'all plan to do. I can't wait. So super excited for that. But thanks a lot for coming on the Ravit Show, discussing all the ideas and what y'all are doing, how y'all are catering to the larger enterprises out there is phenomenal, and great work that your team is doing. So you know big hats off to y'all for doing it and keep doing what y'all are doing, so we can learn more and we can keep the conversation going. But we'll definitely keep the chat and going. We'll obviously keep the conversation going about Firebolt, and we'll definitely share more with our audience as well. So thanks a lot once again for visiting the Ravit Show, and thanks everyone for watching us today and asking questions.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye bye.